Our bodies.
Script.
In the middle.
All end of.
Works.
Verse.
Conversations.
Transverse hour.
Questions.
Ourselves connections.
Links. Differences. Ourselves. Script.
Our body's hour.
While breathing.
Presence, non-presence.
Fast and loud. Love and rage.
Flows. From me to
Excess
you.
and overflow.
My screen to yours. Of question, of code.
Breaking into the midst of what do not yet know, or perhaps know all too clearly.
Breathing of datum, of proxy, breath.
Codes.
Incorporated by the cell, by the pixel, by the way.
As they are staging, errors, platforms we break, rupture, repeat,
constant,
fail,
power flows,
fall, a balancing act of improv,
of my body,
reverse,
rhythm, body forming,
not time for breathing,
breathing,
slower,
void,
longer,
zero. When
quieter,
finite question,
breathing,
the code of code is body as question, code as question.
Later inaudible, empty,
is finite,
feeling,
not liminal.
But body's question.
When not liminal, the
breathing,
code of code,
contracting,
code body
breathing,
as body,
expanding.
Void.
Respire, inspira,
the code of code,
transpira.
Is the body to become a part of the body of code. The reciprocal
breathing,
code.
Processing.
That iterates itself as body that is only a part of code that codes other wild body, other dances. Together with code of body of.
The muscle grows, loading sources.
Undefined particles.
Get feature.
Dançar no mar, no ar.
Get form.
Bailar
get function.
En ver así. No.
Get further. Movement.
Voice, the movement that moves.
And forms.
Speedless. Let move the waves.
Florex. Into feeling bodies that
empty.
Question.
Empty. Feeling.
Breathing.
Breathing until it's
faster.
Enough.
Wider.
Bodies.
Louder.
Distance. Bodies.
Inner body. Outer body.
In relation
bodies
to
in relation to other bodies.
Inner body,
the
outer
distance
body.
Beyond bodies.
Breathing faster,
until it's
louder.
Enough. Not empty. Empty.
Power.
Feeling.
Power X in feeling bodies that question.
Voice movement. The movement.
Trans and forms.
That moves speedless.
Get further, get function, get form, get future.
Let move the waves. Danzar.
The muscle grows.
Normano.
Loading sources.
Bailar.
Respirar.
En merecino.
O processo. Breathing. Process.
Undefined. Particles.
Respira, inspira, transpira.
La corpus, the corpse salva, code.
Breathing.
The corpse me disfraza en una pequeña partícula que tiene onda.
No time for breathing.
The code of the code is the body that dances to become a part of the body of code. The reciprocal code that iterates itself as body.
Quieter.
That is only a part of code that codes.
Later inaudible, empty, feeling
Other wild body of other dances.
Reverse.
Together with code of body of.
We break, rupture, repeat, fail, fall, a balancing act of improv.
Void zero.
Errors.
The code of code, code is code, body is code.
Platforms.
When not liminal, is finite.
Script.
The code of code is body is question.
Fast and loud, love
code
and rage.
Code is question.
Excess and overflow.
When finite is question, void zero.
Breaking into the midst of what do not yet know, or perhaps
Breathing.
know all too clearly.
Rhythm equals body forming.
Codes.
Always 3 equals of my body. Constant
Codes.
Equals power flows.
Codes as they are staging.
My breath equals your question.
Our bodies.
Incorporated by the cell, by the pixel, by the way.
In the middle.
Breathing of data, of proxy, breath.
Conversation.
Of question equals of code. Flows equals from me to you, my screen to yours.
Links.
Presence, non-presence.
Differences.
Our bodies.
Ourselves.
Our connections. Ourselves. Our trans, verse, all, end of script.
Pixelated distances.
This paper has an intention.
From my screen to yours. Pixel by pixel.
In juxtaposition. On the screen. Visible.
The space between. My screen and hers.
My screen and those beyond. Is it empty enough?
Not.
Is the silence empty? Is this the stage or is this the platform?
Am I staging you?
Who is staging who? Is this? Is this?
Scroll down, box. Scroll right. Scroll top. Scroll right. Scroll down, pause.
Platforms. Platforming.
Breaking, rupturing, repeating, failing, falling, being. Improv. Not empty. Never not empty. Always not empty. Empty together, always empty. Flowing together. In relation. Feelings.
It's the abyss.
Expanding until there's a limit.
Yes, it marks the creation of something beyond us. It shows our finiteness, that we cannot separate it from the other. It tells us that we are human beings, not machines. It reminds us of a finite versus Q. That's exactly how I felt on a stage in New York in the 1970s. Pause. Once again, we come back to the surface and sense in the first place. Do we know the stage or the pieces that you actually saw? We don't know exactly what we saw. We can sense them as we move. Or better yet, if we know what we saw and what we see, then we can sort of. My feeling of dancing code is complicated, like any deep freeze that separates us from the world. For her, it was an escape, a way of hiding from the gaze of the unknown, of hiding itself in solitude. After a while, I decided to make an artistic statement by not reading the code at all. But as I approached this project from a distance, I realized that dancing as the code itself is an emotional reaction. For her, that is, the body watching. And dancing without a soul is inherently uncomfortable to me. Quote, socializing is a political activity that is incompatible with the flow of people, end quote. It's not about me getting a headache, it's about who is being watched, what we see. I'm not part of a dance performance, of course, but a close look at the screen, of course, reveals the human element, and in her attempt to show the human nature of dance, in a project called Camp Binge, 2009, page 109, it is a space where we can just as easily feel the sensations of the screen. Nelson, 2013, page 66. What happens when we are having a time? When we are my dancing is not trusting it as
Echo.
Title: Copying If. Copying acts. Acts of copying. Description: content. Copy HTML. Function copy all. Variable element equals document get element by tag name div. Variable clone equals element clone node true. Document body append child clone. Console log and copying. Set interval copy all 300,000. Function move window scroll by 5x negative 5y negative. If y max window scroll x, if y max window scroll y, scroll delay, set timeout move 50, console log moving, window scroll y, pixels, move, div id copy all, if registered, if within the law, if without it, if arbitrarily, if not for spam, if permitted, if sustainably, if you have enough battery, if not hurting natural resources such as deforestation, if not for the purpose of extracting oil, gas, or coal, if not for the purpose of discrimination, including hate speech towards discrimination of others on the basis of sex, gender, age, race, disability, nationality, religion, economic status, etc. If respecting human rights, if no copyright, if no copy wrong, if apolitical, if anytime, if for long enough, if briefly, if in the past year, if in the past week, if in the past month, if online, if offline, if within the line, if beyond, if as you imagine, if large, if with your eyes closed, if freely, if for free, if non-commercial, if non-for-profit, if not for personal use, if non-personal, if not alone, if publicly, if not for art, if for all, if not for them, if in black and white, if absolute privilege, if only with attribution, if share alike, if in another language, if you trust, if with care, if you remember, if you don't look back, if not here, if it rains, if thrown into circulation, if while dancing the rhythm of copying, if you contribute back to the source.
Dissolving.
The body is question. Breathing. Into the void.
If we dance,
then we dance.
If we move more,
what happens?
The body.
The code.
Function, breathing. In and out.
Touching.
writing, copying all methods, copying acts, acts of copying, description, content.
Breathing the adagio, breathing the dégagé.
Air. Air.
Breathing languages.
Air.
Breathing until it's enough.
Air.
Breathing enough.
Air. 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 Air.
Not what we get ahead. It's about who's being watched, what we see. I'm not part of the dance performance, of course. But most of this being, of course, reveals the human element, and in her attempt to show the human nature of man.
Hallo.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Könnt ihr mich hören? könnt ihr mich hören?
Me, yes.
Yeah, we can hear you, yes.
And now I have here a huge delay. Okay. Thank you very much for your performance, and we have not introduced you very well, but you are Renee, Carmichael, and Joana, Chicau, and we have an exhibition here in the panke.gallery. At the moment, we have a performance, and as I saw, the exhibition and the performance are very interwoven. So they are somehow deeply connected. So in
Yes.
the sense that exhibition reflects the performance reflects the exhibition. And then also in the exhibition, we have this floor plan, which makes the audience like dancers or participants also in your exhibition. Maybe could you explain a little bit how it came to this idea?
Do you want to go ahead, Joana, or should I?
Maybe I can just start off and then we just interweave each other's thoughts. So yeah, I guess what is one of the important details of this exhibition is that me and Renee hosted an exhibition at Punk a few years ago during the Transmediale Vorspiel. So basically this is a return to the gallery, but this time we are showing our works, and we are also basically reconnecting in that sense, and a lot of our practices sort of connect in many ways in the same topics and concerns and questions. So I guess it was an opportunity to explore all those intersections. And for this exhibition, our starting point was the writing of an essay, and this same essay is sort of the text that choreographs one through the works in the gallery. I just gonna wrap up here, and then maybe Renee can carry on.
Yeah, I mean, the text, I think, was a way of also thinking about how to collaborate together at a distance, thinking about the way that we both work. And it's so the text is how you walk through the exhibition, but it's also how it was a major part of the performance. So it's sort of in a way it puts in dialogue our two different practices that are very similar but also very different in a lot of different ways. And I think that's what's quite interesting about working with Joana for me is this sort of understanding but not understanding at the same time, and being able to sort of improvise together in a level that is quite interesting for us, I think. And I think that's like what you'll see in a lot of the exhibition and the performance and other things is a lot of different fragments that are put into dialogue with each other. So it's not that, although it's sort of comprehensive of our works in some ways, it's also a dialogue that opens them to other contexts and to other discussions, and thinking about the different materialities of them within the exhibition, within the performance, within how we think together.
Yeah, here in the space, and I can say in special, as you decided so also to share our technical equipment to present the work. So there are always one work of Joana, then one work of Renee. And so there is always this dialogue or tension, you could say. But for me, it is very homogeneous. It's somehow, I can't see so much the differences, or they are there, but in a dialogue. So I would be interested how you would describe by yourself these kind of differences. Would you elaborate on this?
I mean, I think a way we could start by doing that is talking about, because we saw that, like, for example, in the social media, the hashtag of dance and code was used. But I think both Joanna and I maybe don't have exactly or maybe we have a different perspective on this, but also between us it's a different perspective. But I guess in some ways, like when I think of dance and code, for example, I'm thinking of a relationship with movement and the body within the everyday. So that's why a lot of my work maybe talks about scrolling or these kind of relationships. So I'm talking about this sort of like almost as a way of understanding, or a way of thinking, or a way of connecting. And for me, I think the code comes in as well, because it relates to me for writing. So it's not a question of using one or the other to sort of create something. It's a question of how you can think of this relationship as a way to sort of understand my relationship to the technologies. In a way, it's almost a very personal journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for those who happen to have visited the gallery, or if they will still do that either virtually or in person, there is this the text that we were referring to, which is the text that we put together for the exhibition, is the same that we were exploring through the performance. And so we just started by putting these texts together and then highlighting some words that we wanted to respond with and connect some works that we've done in the past with those same words. And I think what is interesting is to see that for the same words, we basically respond differently. We have different works that orbit certain concepts, and you see how that is different once you're in the exhibition space. And also at the times we selected other words and concepts that were closer to each other, and they are not necessarily mapped to both works. Some of us just privilege one word instead of another. And so I think through the codification of the text, we also start seeing some of the distances and proximities around these vocabularies and the way we explore them in our practices. And right, and I think just as much as Renee, I think it started as a very personal journey from the fact that I have a background in dance, that I've started dancing since I'm 5 years old. And I have been exposed to all these movement vocabulary, starting from classical ballet and then contemporary and then more recently tango. And I think this is where also me and Renee sort of have a strong affiliation. It comes with tango. And so, yeah, then these words become flesh, and it sort of becomes a way of understanding through the lenses of movement, dance, and choreography, other infrastructures and other environments and other ways of relating to the world. And I guess both of us somehow fall into the love for the net and the web and all those platforms that we encounter and that we're curious to see through these lenses.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the text, Joana, because I think maybe the differences are in the sort of use of vocabulary, which in some ways isn't necessarily the most important, but then it is important in a way. Like, I think one of the first, in the beginning of the text, for example, I think you had selected the word staging and I had selected platforms. And there you can start to see a bit of like, maybe we're questioning the same thing in certain ways, but the choice of vocabulary can change a lot, and you can sort of like open the discussion in that way. Okay, if you think of it as a stage or a platform, what is the difference there? What is the difference to the body there? So I think yeah.
And also it's an old question in net art also. I think that the browser is perceived as a stage where things are interpreted and performed. So, yeah, I saw then the relation also there was in your work, Joana, you reference so often though the classical dance like Cunningham, or also I was reminded then on the other hand in Renee's work on Fluxus on the question, what is sound or what is music? So like it's also like what is a daily gesture and what is an artistic gesture. So when it starts to shift and what is a moment or so. And for this question of staging is here in this gallery is also very special because we are a gallery focused on net art, and then we transform it somehow in the physical space. And it's also this kind of situation we had now here with the streaming in the background where it's flat, but it's still a stage. You had these kind of overlaying layers, and so. And I would be interested how you see yourself, your praxis in nowadays, and where the most access is over mobile devices, and the browser goes back and back as a stage, and platform become more and more important. So how this influences, so like this shift I would describe how it influences this, your practice, in which way? Would be for me, yeah, would my question.
Do you want to get started, Renee?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question because I think for me it's very hard to have this separation like for me, in a way, I'm always like, actually for this exhibition, I used the old works, but I actually redid them. Thinking about this different context, or thinking of, or maybe that my question had already changed. So I think this question of this sort of like the different platforms is something very inherent to what I do. I think every time I approach a new situation where maybe I'm going to present something, it's almost like I redo it all, and I do it in a different way for that context, or I often take the materials that I already have and I rework them and I play with them. So I think in some ways that question is very inherent in my process of working, because I work very process-based. So I think that the question of like, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's like the first thing that came to my mind with it.
Yeah, I think in terms of thinking what these platforms can mean in terms of staging and what a stage is, well, I think for me, there's quite a few references, like from the Society of the Spectacle, and start to understand how media were sort of numbing down audiences, or like turning, like how basically the screen started operating in certain ways. And from that to, for example, activism, and also the critique towards the public and private of spaces, and how the screen is constantly mediating that process of public and privateness and of exposure, either from cinema to the movies that are on the public square, advertising, and now every time closer to us because it ends up in our pockets through our mobile devices. So I think obviously in terms of media theory, there's a history towards, wondering what does it mean to be so close to these online, the liveness, the streaming, especially this last year, we've seen probably the peak of what it means to live stream, right? So I think it's quite interesting to have seen these in various moments in history. And I oftentimes think of, that phrase from Andy Warhol that says, at some point we will be all famous for 15 minutes or something. And like, if we think about these today, like, we would be lucky if we managed to hold on for 15 minutes, because it's also immediate and instant. And he was actually referring to class struggle and a lot of different issues in relation to the performing arts world. But I keep on thinking, like, what does it mean to interface, and how the interface morphs into a stage quite seemingly, right? So yeah, I guess these are all questions that I carry, and I think somehow both of us were interested in this, and somehow it also shapes the title of the exhibition.
I think that's a bit what I was trying to say with this idea of like the materiality of it. It's like a question of getting to what is the platform, why am I using this platform, how am I using it? And I think these are often questions that, as you said, can be invisible, or they can. But I think it's interesting, this relation of time, like the 15 minutes of fame, and you have this sort of question of attention all the time, and if we call it a stage, does that change the way it's seen from the viewer? Does it?
Yeah, and we haven't made now reservations for this event, for an example. So because I wasn't sure, because only 6 people can enter the gallery at this moment, and I thought that would be sad if there would be more interested. Then I have to write them, no, it's not possible, and so on and so on. But these kind of reservations now for Zoom conferences or Jitsis or these kind of appointments make it much more to a stage for me, the screen. Yeah, it becomes, you have an appointment, then you have to prepare yourself, then you come, and then you have then the event, the performance in the end. Yeah, so then every meeting becomes a performance, so more or less. Yeah, and it shifts also a little bit. But you also mentioned the materiality. So in the sense, was also in all the works on both sides, I would say, often the term body surfaces in various contexts, and it's like the heavy moment, yeah, at the body as a border of materiality and being, so in the opposite to the screen. But then you often, yeah, your material is in the body in the screen, and there is this tension. So somehow, I don't know, has this shifted or has this become a new moment in the Corona situation now, where, so I don't know, I imagine this, that there is somehow an impact on this thing. I don't know how to answer the question, but I hope you know what I mean.
I see. Yeah, I do. I think there's right after speaking through staging, I think body would be also another, indeed, a name that keeps on returning. I think in my case, there's a very particular connection. So it comes from the way a web page is built, that you have the body of the HTML and the head. Yeah. So even if there's no, video interface, or even if there's no representation of an actual, human body or other bodies, there is still the body of the web page that holds the information, that performs, that that enacts in that space. And so I quite like to stretch those notions of what bodies are. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess for me, the relationship actually comes between the body through a similar idea, so through language as well, but I think it's through almost the action of doing it. So the action of writing, the action of moving, the action of thinking in the body, they all sort of relate to me in a similar way. So coding and moving and writing are for me three areas that I sort of have a similar feeling. And so I think it's quite interesting that for you, Joana, that you and I think we both have played a lot with this idea of body. We both, in a way, write sort of code poetry in a lot of what we do. And I think that could be another connection that we have between our work. It's a relationship to language through the body, maybe. Or like, I don't know, maybe you don't feel the same, Joana, but for me, that relationship is very strong I think, in my work.
For me, also, a strange thing, if you sit here in the exhibition over some days, then the things are changing, so, because you perceive them differently every day. It's like if you have an art piece on your wall every day, then over time it changed also the meaning, and it talks to you also. And then somehow there were moments where I would say there were moments of humor, so of absurdity and so on, and how is your relation to this? So I would like to ask, can you see this? Is it a concept, or is it part, or is it only my perception, or have I misinterpreted it or sometimes? But I don't know.
I can respond quickly, and then you can. Yeah. But I think for me, I think it comes in because in some ways it's like I just do it. I just do what I'm doing, and then it comes out. And I think all of these, I think I wouldn't say that humor is something that I intentionally, or I wouldn't say it's like a concept that I'm exploring, but I think it's because your body is there, you make errors, I think these elements are like, you have to, I don't know, for me it's like embracing what happens in the moment, and I think these are the moments where I find humor in myself. So I think for me there's something there, like maybe it's never something that I intentionally do, or it's just what happens,
Okay, and then I perceived it, yes. Yeah, I think it was especially the playlist where you were then saying yourself about you are not a dancer, and then you dance to the texts the AI was writing for you instead of you. So that was a double negation. So that weren't your texts, and it weren't really dances in the sense of a trained dancer. And sometimes
yeah, that work definitely has a lot of, because I also was laughing a lot at myself during the whole, I mean, the texts are quite ridiculous. And actually the AI wrote about Joana, because I've written texts about Joana, so in some of these AI texts she appears randomly.
Yeah, and it comes
Yeah.
I see that my battery is going, and I think we have to plug in. And there is also we have to check if there are Twitch questions or if there are questions from the audience here. No, the Twitch has no questions, and the audience here has also no questions. So I don't know how we continue.
I don't know.
I think I answered. So no, you answered all my questions. So and
I think we have a shy audience today.
A shy audience, yes. Now I'm plugged in.
But I also quite like that the audience is some are online, some are in the gallery. We are in different spaces. I think this whole exhibition has something I kept saying about presence, because for me it was like where am I actually? Am I in the gallery? Am I in the poster that a friend sent me? That am I here now? Am I in the work itself? Am I with Joana? I don't know. I think I find there is a bit of humor as well in a weird way, but I find it quite interesting. I think I could only talk about it afterwards, but it's sort of like what are all these bits? What are they doing? What are they?
Yeah, we will see that. I think there is, and special through the Corona situation, things become more tense, and they get in. Maybe if we look back, then we will see much better what has changed and what has happened through this or because of this and so on. But for me, for an example, also these kind of telepresence, the conversations over screens, from your screen to my screen and back. This is much more part of daily life, and also it has now its own quality and presence, I would say. Yeah, it hasn't had it before for me. Yeah. So I'm thankful for your work and reflection about this. Yes, it was very nice.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to, before we wrap up, also thank the audience, thank those who are here with us, and in some way or another, who passed by the gallery as well in the past days, who have been there for us, and who also joined the virtual tours. It's a strange sensation, this one of being embodied but also disembodied, and figuring out all these sensations. But yeah, and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure for us. Okay, thank you, and see you soon then. Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.